The gun pressed cold against her temple. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she stared into the eyes of the man who'd been hunting her for 3 weeks. This was it. 3 years of running, of hiding, of rebuilding her life from nothing, all ending in a dark alley behind the hospital where she worked double shifts just to survive. "Any last words, nurse?" The hitman's voice was ice. Then the world exploded. Gunshots cracked through the night. The pressure disappeared from her head. Bodies hit the pavement. And when the smoke cleared, he stood there, 6 feet 3 inches of lethal elegance in a black suit, gun still raised, eyes darker than the shadows around them. Dante Moretti, the most feared mafia boss on the East Coast. He'd just killed 3 men to save her life. But Emma had no idea that in 6 months she'd be the only person on Earth capable of saving his. Initial CTA. This is a story that will grip you from the first page to the last. A story about how sometimes the most dangerous person in your life becomes the only one who can keep you safe, and how sometimes saving someone's life is easier than saving their soul. If you want to know how a single moment in a dark alley changed 2 lives forever, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments where you're watching from. Every view matters. Every story deserves to be heard. Emma Richardson had exactly $43 in her checking account when Dante Moretti saved her life. She knew the exact amount because she'd checked it 3 times that morning, trying to figure out how to make it stretch until Friday's paycheck. $27 for the electric bill, $10 for gas, $6 for groceries if she was creative. That left nothing for the insulin her roommate Sarah needed, but Emma would figure something out. She always did. The pediatric ward at Grace Memorial Hospital had been chaos that night. Full moon always brought the worst cases, the accidents, the emergencies, the parents with terrified eyes begging her to save their children. Emma had been on her feet for 11 hours straight when Dr. Phillips finally told her to go home. She should have taken the front exit. Should have waited for security to walk her to her beaten Honda Civic. Should have listened to the voice in her head that screamed danger when she heard footsteps behind her in the parking garage. But Emma was tired. Bone tired. Soul tired. The kind of tired that came from working 2 jobs, from eating ramen 4 nights a week, from lying awake wondering if this was all life would ever be. So she didn't run fast enough when the footsteps became a sprint. She didn't scream loud enough when hands grabbed her from behind. And she didn't fight hard enough when they dragged her into the alley where ambulances usually parked, where the streetlight had been broken for 2 months, where nobody would hear her die. Emma Richardson. The first man's voice was professional, clinical, like he was reading from a grocery list. "You've been hard to find." Her mind raced. Emma Richardson. Not her real name. The name she'd bought 3 years ago for $2,000 and a fake ID. The name that was supposed to keep her safe from. "He wants you to know," the man continued, pressing the gun harder against her skull, "that nobody runs from Marcus Volkov. Nobody." Ice flooded her veins. Marcus. After 3 years, he'd found her. "Any last words, nurse?" Emma closed her eyes. "Starting with your real name." The SUV pulled away from the hospital. Emma watched the building disappear through the tinted window, feeling her old life slip away with it. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But not of Dante Moretti. Of what came next. "My real name," she said quietly, "is Elena Volkov. And the man who sent those killers is my father." The silence in the SUV was deafening. Then Dante Moretti smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who just realized his prey was far more interesting than anticipated. "Volkov," he repeated. "You're Marcus Volkov's daughter. The daughter who disappeared 3 years ago. The daughter he's been tearing apart the East Coast to find." "Yes. And you've been hiding in my city this entire time, working at a hospital, pretending to be nobody." Elena, lifted her chin. "I wanted to be nobody. Nobody was safe. Nobody's never safe, Bella. He leaned closer, and she could see gold flecks in those dark eyes. But you're not nobody anymore. You're Elena Volkov. And now you're under my protection. I didn't ask for your protection. You didn't have to ask. His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. Your father's men just tried to kill someone in my territory. That's an act of war. And you, Elena Volkov, just became my most valuable asset. The SUV turned toward the waterfront, away from everything familiar. Away from her apartment, her job, her carefully constructed life. Elena's hands trembled. She'd escaped one cage only to walk into another. But as she looked at Dante Moretti, at the blood on his collar, at the cold calculation in his eyes, at the way his jaw clenched like he was making battle plans, she realized something terrifying. She didn't want to run anymore. Dante Moretti's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of the Meridian Tower, the most expensive building in the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the harbor. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Everything screamed power, wealth, control. Elena stood in the entrance, still wearing her blood-stained scrubs, feeling like she'd stepped into another universe. "Marco will show you to your room," Dante said, shrugging off his jacket. Beneath it, a shoulder holster held 2 guns. He removed them with the casual ease of someone who'd worn weapons longer than wedding rings. "Dr. Russo will arrive in 20 minutes to check your injuries. Anything you need, ask Marco." The bodyguard nodded. He was built like a... "But while you're under my roof, while your father's men are hunting you, while there's a war brewing between families, you're mine to keep safe." Something in his voice made her shiver. Not fear. Something far more dangerous. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" His jaw clenched. For a moment she saw something flicker across his face, something raw and wounded. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold mask he wore like armor. "I lost someone once," he said quietly. "Someone I should have protected. I won't lose anyone else." Before she could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. He stepped back, the moment shattered. "That's Marco. Your father knows you're alive. He's demanding a meeting." Dante's expression hardened. "This is where it gets complicated, Bella." It was already complicated. "No." He moved to the window, staring out at the city lights. "Now it's war. Your father will want you back. I won't give you up. That means blood. Then let me go. I'll run again. You'll die." He turned, and the ferocity in his eyes made her step back. "You'll die alone in some random city, murdered by men your father sends. Is that what you want?" "No." "Then trust me." He crossed the room in 3 strides, gripping her shoulders. "Trust that I can keep you safe. Trust that I won't let him hurt you again." Elena looked up at him, this dangerous, powerful man who'd killed for her without hesitation, who'd brought her into his home, tended her wounds, looked at her like she mattered. "I don't know how to trust anyone," she admitted. "Then learn." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Starting with me." His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered it, his expression darkening as he listened. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause. "Handle it. I'll be down in 5. He hung up, already moving. "Stay here. Don't leave this floor. Don't go near the windows." "What's happening?" "Your father just sent 50 men to the harbor." Dante checked his guns, loaded fresh magazines with practiced efficiency. "He's making his move." Terror gripped her. "Dante." "I'll be back." He paused at the door, looking back at her. "I promise, Elena. I'll be back." Then he was gone, and Elena was alone in the penthouse, listening to the sound of cars screeching away in the night. She walked to the window despite his warning, looking down at the city spread below. Somewhere out there, men were about to die. Because of her. Elena pressed her palm against the glass. Her reflection stared back, pale, frightened, alive. What have I done? Elena waited 3 hours. She paced the penthouse floor, wearing a path in the expensive carpet. Better than me. What if I get to decide what I deserve? Then you're making a terrible choice. Maybe. She smiled despite everything. Or maybe I'm making the first real choice I've had in 3 years. Before he could respond, his phone rang. The spell broke. Dante answered, his expression hardening. When? A pause. I'll be there in 10. He stood, wincing. That was your father. He wants to meet. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. Fear spiked through her. You can't go. I have to. This ends one way or another. What if? Elena. He pulled her up, holding her close. I won't let him take you. I won't let him hurt you. I promise. You can't promise that. I just did. He kissed her forehead, gentle now. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we go to war. But Elena couldn't sleep. She stood in her room, touching her lips where he'd kissed her, feeling her world shift on its axis. She'd saved his life by cleaning his wound. But Dante Moretti was saving something far more precious. He was saving her soul. The abandoned warehouse on the docks had been neutral ground for decades. A place where families met to negotiate, to trade, to avoid all-out war. Today, it would decide Elena's fate. She stood beside Dante, dressed in black jeans and a leather jacket he'd provided. 20 of his men surrounded them, weapons ready but holstered. Across the warehouse, Marcus Volkov stood with 40 men. Elena hadn't seen her father in 3 years. He'd aged, gray streaked his dark hair, lines creased his face. But his eyes were the same, cold, calculating, ruthless. Daughter. His voice echoed in the vast space. You look well. No thanks to you. Elena's voice was steady despite her trembling hands. The men I sent were supposed to bring you home. Alive. They had guns to my head. A precaution. You've proven yourself unpredictable. Marcus's gaze shifted to Dante. Moretti. I'm impressed. You've managed to keep my daughter hidden for 3 days. Most people can't hide from me for 3 hours. I'm not most people, Dante said coolly. No. You're the man standing between me and my family. Marcus took a step forward. His men mirrored the movement. That makes you a problem. Then we have something in common, Dante replied. Because your men attacking someone in my city makes you a problem. She belongs to me. She belongs to no one. Dante's voice dropped dangerously. Least of all you. Marcus's expression hardened. Everything I've done has been for her protection. The marriage to Alexei would have secured her future, made her powerful, safe. You mean it would have secured your alliance? Elena cut in. I was never anything but a bargaining chip to you. You were my daughter. You killed my mother. The words exploded out of her. You tortured her with treatments she didn't want, forced her to suffer, all because you couldn't let go. And when I ended her pain, you called me a murderer. You were a murderer, and I choose this. She stepped closer to Dante, taking his hand. I choose him. Dante's fingers tightened around hers. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. Marcus looked between them. Slowly, he nodded. Fine. 1 month. I'll handle Alexei. He turned to leave, then paused. Elena, your mother. She loved you very much. She'd want you to be happy. I know, Papa. It was the first time she'd called him that in 3 years. Marcus's eyes shone, but he didn't turn back. He walked away, his men falling in behind him. When the warehouse was empty except for Dante's people, Elena let out a breath she'd been holding for an hour. "It's over," she whispered. "No." Dante pulled her close. "It's just beginning." "What do you mean?" "I meant what I said in there." His eyes burned into hers. "I love you, Elena Volkov. I've loved you since you stood in that alley covered in blood and still tried to fight. Since you ran to me when I was injured instead of running away. Since you looked at me, really looked at me, and didn't see a monster." Elena's heart soared. "Dante!" "Let me finish." His thumb brushed her cheek. "I'm not an easy man. I'm dangerous, I'm ruthless, and I have enemies who'd kill you just to hurt me. But I will protect you with my last breath. I will give you everything. And I will love you until the day I die." Tears streamed down her face. "You saved my life." "No, Bella." He smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. "You saved mine. You reminded me I'm still human. Still capable of feeling something beyond anger and vengeance. You saved my soul." She kissed him then, pouring everything into it, gratitude, love, hope, passion. He kissed her back just as fiercely, holding her like she was precious beyond measure. When they broke apart, Elena was smiling through her tears. "I love you too," she whispered. "I didn't think I could love anyone again after everything. But you made me feel safe. Made me feel seen. Always," he promised. "For as long as you'll have me. That might be a very long time." "Good." He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "Because I'm lighter." "Thank you," he said over coffee. "For last night. For listening. Always." Elena took his hand. "We heal together, remember?" "Together," he agreed. His phone rang. Marco's name flashed on the screen. "Boss," Marco's voice was urgent. "We have a problem. Alexei Kozlov just landed in the city. He's demanding to see Elena." Dante's expression hardened instantly. "How many men?" 20. "They're at the Grand Hotel. I'll be there in 30 minutes." He hung up, already moving. "Wait." Elena grabbed his arm. "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. This is about me. I should—" "Elena." He cupped her face. "I know you're strong. I know you're a survivor. But Alexei is dangerous. Unstable. I won't risk." "You don't get to make that choice for me." She held his gaze. "We're partners, remember? That means facing things together." Dante's jaw clenched. She could see him warring with himself, the protective instinct versus respecting her agency. Finally, he nodded. "Together. But you stay behind me. You don't engage unless I say so." "Agreed." "Agreed." The Grand Hotel's penthouse suite was opulent even by Dante's standards. Alexei Kozlov waited in the living room, surrounded by his men, all armed, all dangerous. Alexei himself was handsome in a cold, aristocratic way. Blonde hair, ice-blue eyes, expensive suit. He stood when they entered, his gaze locking on Elena. "So, the runaway bride returns." His English carried a heavy Russian accent. "You've led me on quite the chase, Milaya." "I'm not your bride," Elena said coldly. "I never was. Your father and I had an agreement. That agreement died 3 years ago." Dante stepped between them, casual but threatening. "She's under my protection now." "Ah, yes. The great Dante Moretti." Alexei's smile didn't reach his eyes. the man who steals what belongs to others. She doesn't belong to anyone. She belongs to me by contract, by honor, by nothing, Elena interrupted. I never agreed to marry you, Alexei. My father made that deal without my consent, and now he's made a new deal with Moretti. Alexei's expression hardened. Breaking his word to me, dishonoring our families. Or maybe, Dante said softly, he finally learned to listen to his daughter. Love. Alexei spat the word like a curse. You think love matters in our world? You think it protects you? I know it does, Elena said. She stepped forward, standing beside Dante rather than behind him. Because Dante taught me that strength isn't about control or power. It's about choosing to be vulnerable, to care, to protect what matters. Poetic. Alexei's hand moved toward his weapon. Instantly, every gun in the room was raised, his men targeting Dante's targeting his. But ultimately pointless. I came for what's mine. Then you'll leave disappointed, Dante said. His voice was deadly calm. Because Elena isn't leaving with you. Not today. Not ever. You'd go to war over a woman? Over this woman? Without hesitation. Alexei studied them. Dante's protective stance, Elena's unwavering presence beside him. Something shifted in his expression. You really love her, he said, surprised. More than my own life. And you? Alexei looked at Elena. You love him? Yes. Even knowing what he is? What he's done? I know exactly who he is, Elena said firmly. And I love him anyway. Just like he loves me, broken pieces and all. Silence fell. Alexei's men waited for orders. Dante's hand rested on his gun, ready but not drawn. Then Alexei did something unexpected. He laughed. You know what? Keep her. He lowered his hand, signaling his men to stand down. I wanted an alliance, not a wife who'd hate me forever. Your father can find another way to make amends. Just like that? Dante asked, suspicious. Just like that. Alexei moved toward the door, then paused. But Moretti? If you break her heart, if you hurt her, our families will go to war. Understood. Dante's smile was sharp. I'd expect nothing less. Alexei nodded to Elena. Be happy, Milaya. God knows we all deserve that much. Then he was gone, taking his men with him. The tension broke. Elena let out a breath she'd been holding, sagging against Dante. That was easier than expected, she said. Too easy. Dante frowned. I don't trust it. Maybe he was just being human. Elena smiled up at him. Maybe your sister's watching over us, making sure we get our happy ending. Dante's expression softened. He pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. Maybe. As they left the hotel, Elena felt the last weight lift from her shoulders. Her father had made peace. Alexei had let her go. The threats had dissolved. She was finally, truly free. What now? She asked as they drove through the city. Now. Dante glanced at her, eyes warm. Now we live. We build a life together. Whatever that looks like. I'd like to keep working at the hospital. Then you'll keep working. And maybe go back to school. Finish my degree. Whatever you want, Bella. It's yours. Elena took his hand, lacing their fingers together. I want you. That's all. Everything else is just details. You have me, he promised. For as long as you'll keep me. Forever, then. Forever it is. They drove toward home, their home, as the sun set over the city. Elena watched the light paint the sky in golds and pinks, and felt something she'd never expected to feel again. Hope. She'd saved a man's life in a dark alley. He'd saved hers in return. But more importantly, they'd saved each other's souls, healing wounds they'd both thought were permanent, learning to love despite the danger, choosing to be vulnerable in a world that punished weakness. That was worth more than any empire. Worth more than power or wealth or safety. It was worth everything. The garden behind the estate was in full bloom. Roses climbed the stone walls, their scent heavy on the summer air. Elena sat on a bench, watching the scene before her with a full heart. Sophia, named for the sister Dante had lost, ran through the flowers in a white dress, her dark curls bouncing. At 5 years old, she had her father's eyes and her mother's fierce spirit. "Mama, look!" She held up a butterfly that had landed on her finger. "It's so pretty. Beautiful, baby." Elena smiled. "Be gentle with it." Dante emerged from the house, carrying a tray with lemonade. He'd softened over the years, still dangerous when necessary, but the cold edge had mellowed into something warm. Something almost peaceful. He set the tray down and kissed Elena's temple. "She's going to be a terror when she's older." "She already is." Elena laughed. "Wonder where she gets that." "Definitely from you," says the man who once shot 3 people to save my life. "Fair point." He sat beside her, pulling her close. "No regrets?" "None." Elena leaned into him. "You?" "Not a single one." His hand rested on her slightly rounded belly. "Baby number 2, due in 4 months. How are you feeling?" "Tired." "Happy." "Loved." "Good." He kissed her, slow and sweet. "That's how you should always feel." Sophia ran over, climbing into her father's lap with the ease of a child who'd never known fear. "Papa, tell the story." "Which story, Principessa?" "How you saved Mama." Dante glanced at Elena, smiling. It was Sophia's favorite bedtime story, heavily edited for her age, of course. "Once upon a time," he began, "there was a brave woman who was in danger." Elena closed her eyes, listening to Dante's voice, feeling the warmth of the sun and the life growing inside her. She thought about that night in the alley, terrified, alone, certain she was going to die. She'd had no idea that the man who saved her would become her entire world. Marcus visited once a month, like clockwork. He'd softened too, grateful to be part of Sophia's life, making peace with his past. The alliance he'd formed with Dante had brought stability to both families. Alexei sent Christmas cards every year, usually with sarcastic notes about domestic life. He'd married a Russian heiress and seemed genuinely happy. And Elena? Elena had finished her nursing degree. She ran a clinic now, funded by Dante, providing free health care to people who couldn't afford it. She'd found her purpose, her calling, her joy. But more than that, she'd found love. Real love. The kind that healed instead of hurt. The kind that made her stronger instead of weaker. The kind that reminded her, every single day, that she was worthy of being cherished. And they lived happily ever after, Dante finished the story. "Forever and ever?" Sophia asked. "Forever and ever," he confirmed. Sophia squealed and ran off to chase more butterflies. "You know," Elena said quietly, "you really did save my life that night." "And you saved mine." Dante's arm tightened around her. "My soul was dead before you, Bella. You brought me back. We brought each other back." "Yeah." He kissed her again, deeper this time. "We did." As the sun set over the garden, as their daughter laughed and their unborn child moved beneath Elena's hand, as peace settled over the estate like a blessing, Elena knew one thing with absolute certainty. She'd been saved. But more importantly, she'd saved the one person who'd needed it most. A man with a dark past and a darker reputation. A man who'd learned to love again because of her. A man whose soul she'd rescued from the shadows. And in return, he'd given her everything: safety, love, family, home. The Mafia boss had saved her life. But she'd saved his soul. And that made all the difference.